everybody. How's everybody doing today? I'm so sorry I started late again. But I appreciate everyone's patience here. If you've been coming to my streams for a while, you know I'm always late. I just, there's so many things going on today. I actually had to work on some stuff for a client, not photography related, but something else. And I just finished that, and then I was trying to download that new thing because Robin put a video out, I guess it was last night or this morning, about being able to live stream directly off your OMD camera that has tethering support. And but that was just so last minute. I downloaded it, and then for some reason it didn't show up in my programs that I could run. So I'll have to, maybe I'll do it for the live stream when I do the photo editing after this. So at 5 o'clock, which is a little less than 2 hours from now, I do a live stream where I edit your photos, or you can edit mine, right? So there's a link in this video, I think, down below. You can download my image if you want to edit mine, or if you just want to submit yours, there's a link there as well. And then, like I said, at 5 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time, that's when I edit your photos. But for today, for now, yeah, I got up this morning kind of late, but I saw a couple of thumbnails about some the new lenses announcements from Olympus. So, and you know, it's nothing new really that we haven't already kind of been hearing about for a while. The 8-25 f4 Pro and the 100 to, or 150 to 400. The only new one really was it looks like they're going to do a 100mm macro lens potentially. So I did skim the two videos that I saw from Robin and Jimmy. Jimmy, I guess, live streamed sometime today. But I didn't get a chance to watch either of them all the way through. You know, I just looked at the the lens chart, right? And I'll pull that up in a minute to see what was new. And so yeah, those were the three lenses that kind of stood out to me, or the macro lens I think they mentioned in the video. And I've tried to do macro with a 100mm lens because I have a 100mm f2.8 macro from Nikon, and I did hook that up to my one of my cameras, and I did a couple shots with it. It's yeah, it's a big magnification. But it was really dark, so I don't know if somehow, since it's not optimized for Micro Four Thirds, it didn't really, I wasn't that impressed with it, unlike, you know, pictures that I've taken with it with my Nikon. And I don't think it's the camera's fault. I think, I don't know, maybe I didn't have enough light or something. But anyway, so today's live stream, I wanted to talk about the new lenses, and I wanted to answer any questions you have about, you know, Olympus cameras and workspace, and just catch up on what's new. Like I said, I can't believe it's already Thursday. So you think a lot would have happened, but problem is I get up each day, I can just barely remember what I did the previous day. Like, I'm trying to think hard, what video did I just crank out? I just published it last night. I don't know. Anyway, let me see if there's any quick questions here. Oh, okay, well, let me do some shout outs here. Nature with Music, hi, good to see you. And Christian Johannes is great to see you from Germany. And oh, Pen F2 in white, that's interesting. That would be interesting. Bob Needham and John Matthews, always good to see you. Gets audio, is my audio on? Hold on, that's a good question. John, John's asking how many people bet I get my audio right. I think it's right, because I think I had to I was doing a live, like a Skype call earlier or something, so my mic had to be working, and I haven't changed anything since then. Barry, how are you? Anthony, oh, from Minnesota, good. John Fallows, good to see you. I know I'm always late, you guys know. I probably lost like 50 people. Well, Like I rarely get 50 people in the chat room to begin with. um, but it seems like people come in late. Like you know, I didn't make much announcement about this stream at all, but just when I'm about to end my live stream, there's like a peak of people there. Like it's up like 50%, maybe double sometime. Ah, is that a Star Trek phaser I'm holding? No, just a bottled water. Yeah, Anthony's ready for the 150 to 400. And then Rob, why would Olympus release new product at this point? Makes no sense to me. Well, you know, basically, even though they've made this announcement with the intent to sell the imaging division, they have to maintain their business at a pretty high level, if not higher level than it was before, because the buyers can always back out. They'll do their due diligence, and if they see that Olympus is acting in bad faith and dropping production and trying to cut costs before the new buyers take over, they're gonna scream foul and say no thanks. So Olympus, if anything, we should see a good ramp up, maybe, you know, between now and if it ever turns over. After that, who knows what's going to happen? But up till then, Olympus has to make a good faith effort to maintain the business and do the best that they can so that it's as attractive as possible if they intend to sell it. If they have no intent in selling it, you know, maybe deep down they don't want to sell it. They could. Um, Lost my train of thought. Well, if they intend to sell it, they're gonna do the best they can to hand over the best imaging division that they can to the buyer so that they don't back out. And that's my rationale anyway. But that's what I've seen in business in general. My limited experience in this, but I have been involved in uh, one business where they wanted to make the business as attractive as possible. So they were going to buy a new building with new amenities and facilities because they were operating out of like a Class C industrial office, sort of. And they wanted to buy a Class A building, office space, and then sell it and make it attractive so that they can get more money for it. And that's my thinking of what's going to happen with Olympus is they're going to do their best between now and when it actually turns over, and hopefully the people that turn it over, that take over, will do their best, right, for Olympus, the imaging division. It'll be interesting to see what the new name is. I think someone before gave a really good suggestion is to call it, I think, Maitani or Maitani. You know, the guy that designed the OMD cameras, or the OM cameras, I should say. The film cameras, and I think he did the Pen F too. The Pen F film, but that would be awesome to have Maitani OMDs, right? They might have to take the O off though, right? Because it's no longer Olympus, but technically I think they're buying that whole name, OMD and Zuiko. But anyhow, I think hey David, how are you? Good to see you. I like your mask on your little icon there. um, let's take a look at the new lens lineup, and let me share a few thoughts there. I got an email from Rick also. I don't know if he's here, which I read through kind of quickly before the stream about the new lenses. So I'll share that with you as well. What the ideas were there discussed. Let me go to here. Get my green screen right. Little corner there off. There we go. And I think I have, where is it? No, No idea. Is it this one? No. that's that's the straw. Here it is. Duh. Let's see. It says here, Wolftick says, I don't want to say anything wrong things, but Rob, you are most level-headed one out of the group. Thanks. You seem more realistic about the future of Olympus. Yeah, well, I try to be neutral. That's all. Uh, I'd like to think that they'll really continue the legacy and make a go of it. But we've seen otherwise from their company with like Sony Vaio. I mean, that's a very different product. Uh, where it was Vaio previously was really very innovative and creating really interesting products before they got turned over, and Vaio by the new owners turned into more of a mainstream product. And at this point, I think there's really only two or three products from them, and they seem fairly competitive. Uh, Other than the branding confusion, because people still think it was owned by Sony, I didn't see any serious flaws with their product. They were made for the Japanese market, which is a little different than ours. So when they brought their products over, uh, they just started selling them here again last year, maybe. They weren't to the same level or same quality that a lot of the manufacturers that are already selling here in the U.S. are doing. And if they're serious, they'll continue to improve the products if they want to be competitive. And as for Olympus, I think I need to do a video about some ideas, because I think one thing we can do as the Micro Four Thirds or Olympus community is is on social media like YouTube, maybe in a live stream, express our ideas and thoughts and hopes for the new company. I think it's still a little premature at this point. I'll wait till everything's actually signed until September. And then we can really sort of just make a public plea to the new owners. This is what the Olympus, you know, people that have been using Olympus for life, most of their life, and new Olympus buyers would be looking for, and maybe they'll take those ideas and implement that into their new cameras. Now, I don't know how big the group is in terms of the the Olympus user base. I know the ones that use Olympus love them, right? Like I do. But that may not mean anything if they're trying to expand it. They might decide that the market is really a little different than what we want. Uh, but all we can do is make our voices heard, and hopefully they'll implement things that we'd like to see. But it's just business, at this point. Uh, to some extent, I don't know about Japanese corporate culture and all of that. Some people talked about, they take pride in Japanese industry and products and all that stuff, right? That stuff doesn't mean jack here in the United States, unfortunately. Uh, when a company takes over here in the U.S., especially an investment firm, they're usually a chop shop, and they just, if they can break it apart, divide and conquer, and make more money than trying to make it a viable business with new products, they'll do it. They'll do whatever will make the most money short term. If they can make it viable short term and make it more attractive and sell it for more than they paid for it, they'll do that too, right? So it's not always, divide and conquer. Sometimes it is restructuring to make it a more profitable business. And then after a year or two, they can show financials and say, this is what we've done with the company. These are the financials. The outlook is this, blah, blah, blah. We're going to sell it for, 20 to 50%, if not 100% more than we paid for it, and give this humongous return on investment to the people. Because investment firms, they take a lot of private equity firms, they take a lot of investments from uh, uh, other private companies and individuals to some extent, if they have money, like Jeff Bezos, right? But anyway, let's see. Roman says, can't believe Olympus sell the imaging division. I saw that coming that my girlfriend's left me, but Olympus selling, I didn't see that coming. Yeah, yeah. Uh, that surprised me a little bit too. I'm not shocked, right? But yeah, it's a little sad when a company sells one of their legacies, a piece off like that. We can only hope that the new owners do their best to continue that. Nature says, well, I'll be sticking the Micro Four Thirds and my TG6 plus underwater case and intend to buy more. Yep. Yeah, I definitely intend to buy more. We'll talk about that when oh, what the heck? I got the lens chart up this whole time and haven't said one peep about it. let's take a look at this. I didn't want to go back and talk about the thing too much, but let me it's weird, I don't have a screen where it's big enough that I can read what's on there. Let me just pull it up over here. No. There it is. Okay. So this says so if we go up to the top here, I wonder if I do this. Hold on. Yeah, there we go. This will work. You still have a lot to buy, huh? And Marsha's going to buy more too. Exactly. So looking at the top here, this is the 150 to 400. Let me zoom in a bit. 150 to 400 f4.5 with a teleconverter 1.2x IS Pro. Yeah, that's going to be $5,000-$6,000 probably, right? So we can rule that out for most of us. I mean, if you have the means to buy that, great, but that's just not a lens that's even on my radar. The only way that would be on my radar if it's like, $2,000, right? Or less. But the 300 f4 Pro is already $2,800 right now. And yeah, and then what's this? This is still grayed out, really. This is a 50 to 200 telephoto zoom. Probably be an f4. I don't see any need for that, because the 40 to 150 f2.8 Pro is like really nice lens already. I don't see why we need one here. Just with a tiny bit more range. Because when you get a telephoto, you really need to be at f2.8, f4 maximum. Now, if this is a straight f4, 50 to 200 with image stabilization and yeah, with image stabilization, maybe, and it's a little smaller and lighter than the 40 to 150, maybe there's a market for that, but it seems a little out of place in this lineup. So I'd be surprised if this comes out. And then what's this one? This is the same thing, another 50 to 250 kind of range, f4 Pro. Again, these two lenses look the same to me, this one and this one, right? So what would be the point of that? I just say pick one. Don't make things so complicated. And finally, we have this lens, the 8 to 25 f4 Pro. That is definitely going to be an awesome lens. And this is the one I'm thinking about getting next. And I've been saying this for forever, right? Since the rumors kind of came out about it. And it's very specific to me because I do architectural real estate photography. And this will replace my 8mm fisheye Pro that I use now. But if I had this lens, I'd almost not have to bring, because sometimes I bring the kit lens with me, the 14 to 42, to do some outside shots that are less wonky than a fisheye. But this would replace this. I could bring one lens that's rectilinear, so it'll save me an extra step in post processing. But for general use, like consumer use, like for landscapes and architectural photography, street photography, this this is a pretty attractive setup if it's about the same size as the 12 to 45, you know, like 300 grams maybe. That would be a great lens. And I think the one, yeah, we talked about, what's this one next to it here? 40 to say 150. I'm looking at this one, this 40 to 150. And that's 40 to 150, which is right here already. So they're going to make a 40 to 150 f4 Pro. And that's kind of what I'm getting from this. I don't know. I don't know about that. Because we have a 40 to 150 f2.8 Pro right here. So you're just going to make one a little smaller and lighter? That's because Panasonic has that now, right? They have a 35 to 100 that's kind of small and light f2.8. Nobody's going to buy a 40 to 150 f4. Why? Why would you? I don't see how that makes sense. So in this roadmap, honestly, this is the only lens, this one and this one here. These two, get rid of these two. This is a waste of resources, in my opinion. And then what else do we got here? I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think would you want a 40 to 150 Pro at f4 if it's smaller and lighter? I just don't see that. Same thing here. 50 to 150 to 250, give or take, right? F4. Maybe. Maybe. But I would go with one of these and this. Yeah, nature knows, right? 40 to 150 with the teleconverters. That's the way to go. Wolftick says, Bob, how is that 9 to 18? 9 to 18 is awesome. It's if this 8 to 25 doesn't come out, that's a lens I'll probably buy instead. Because it's slow, right? It's f4 to 5.6 or something like that, which doesn't matter because I'm always on a tripod. But that's probably be my next lens if this 8 to 25 doesn't come out. And if the 8 to 25 comes out and they want, you know, more than $1,000 for it, that should be about a $700 lens or $800 lens. that better not be like 1,000 or more. Then I might just go back to the 9 to 18. Yeah, Bob. Oh, you were talking to Bob. Sometimes people call me Bob, so I kind of misread that wolf tick. I thought maybe you were asking me, but Bob Needham is saying, yeah, the 918 is awesome, right? Small and light. And John McCormick says, as Peter Forscar said, keeping the aperture at f4 will keep the lenses smaller for the M43 cameras. I agree. Oh, definitely. Yeah, they'll definitely keep them smaller, and I think that's definitely a viable alternative. But if you're gonna do that, honestly, I think you don't need to make them pro, weather sealed, all of that, and drive the price up. Just give me an f4 with the semi-metal, semi-plastic build, right? That's cheap. Like, take the 75 millimeter f1.8. It's got a nice all-metal build. It's not the same metal build probably as the pro lenses. And it's not that cheap, to be honest, but still, it's probably cheaper than it would have been if they tried to use pro materials, pro and weather sealing. I feel like that's kind of where I would personally like to see it go. But a lot of people really dig the weather sealing, so maybe that's why they just decided to call them pro lenses, make them weather sealed, smaller and lighter. And this kind of goes back to what Rick was saying in an email to me, was about breaking these up. maybe giving a little more granularity between the lenses and what their purposes are. So I'll talk about that maybe in another video. I didn't want to get into that part. Let's just talk about what it is now. We have Pro lenses and we have Zuiko lenses. So Zuiko Pro and then Zuiko. And then a bunch of bright primes. That's good. I just, the problem I have with the bright primes is they're freaking expensive. I don't own a single prime f1.2 because holy crap, my 17mm f1.8, what's that, like 200 grams, and the 17 f1.2 is like 400 or 500 grams. I mean, come on. I'm not doing that. And that, never mind, it's like $1,000 lens or more. God. I mean, if I was a professional and I needed a 17 as a professional, yeah, great, Same thing with the 45 f1.2, like I know Joe Ellis and I'm sure Jimmy and Peter and Robin, they love the 45 f1.2 Pro because they do portrait work, or for whatever other things you use a 45 for. It makes perfect business sense. The pricing doesn't matter as much. It needs to be priced what it needs to be priced. But as the average consumer, these Pro lenses, the prices are kind of high. Yeah, I don't need a 17 or a 45 Pro lens. F1.2. So Romans say the 6mm would be kind of fisheye. What would be the widest lens without being fisheye? Well, on a Micro Four Thirds system, really, I think, I feel like 10 to 12mm is right about where your perspective has been kind of forced into a range that has not too much distortion or lens distortion. Like my 12mm f2 looks really good all the time in all the corners. It's a little wider than your natural field of view, but not so wide that things start to get distorted looking. I think 12mm is really about as wide as you can go. Once you get to like 10, 9, 9 is kind of doable, but if you crop in a little, but then you're kind of back to 12mm. So yeah, I mean, I've done plenty of things with my 8mm fisheye in real estate, right? But I have to crop in quite a bit, back down to about 10 or 12mm when I do my editing. Because when you get out to the corners, 8mm wide, even though it's rectilinear, because I do that correction, things still look weird, right? In the corners towards the edges, they get really stretched out, and there's just no way around that when you're using a wide angle lens. I'm holding up my purchase desire of the Pani 1-400. I want to see Olympus 100-400 to compare it with it. Yeah. Oh, actually, yeah. Let's move down a little bit. Let's continue on here. Bright primes, great. I mean, they just have to be. They have to be. I just. My problem with the bright primes is they're so expensive. Unless you're doing pro work, I can't justify or recommend a pro lens to anybody. At 1.8, you're what, 2/3 of a stop higher than f1.2. So just shoot at, instead of ISO 200, shoot ISO 400, and you're done. and save $1,000. Okay. The 100mm macro lens, or what? Yeah, 100mm macro, that'll be interesting. I think that's a legit, that's definitely a legitimate addition to the lineup. It's going to be very niche, right? Only because, I mean, macro photography is niche to begin with, but I think that's definitely a legit addition to the lineup. Just like this 150-400, very niche, but it's a legitimate addition. So we have this one and this one and this one. These all make sense to me. These three here, they gotta pick one. We can't do all three of these. All right, let's go down a little bit. Yeah, the 100 to 400. This will be an interesting lens because we have the 75 to 300 just below that. If they can improve on this lens, because we're going 400, it's already faster, right, at f6.3. That's pretty attractive, and it has image stabilization built in. So this is going to be a little bit expensive because of that. This 100 to 400, that's an interesting lens. That might be worth trading my 75 to 300 in, because when I'm, if we can be at 300 millimeters, say at f5.6, that'll help a lot, right? And hopefully be a little bit sharper than the 75 to 300, because the 75 to 300 is a little bit soft. It's a little bit soft. It's fine for just general photography, and if you can get close enough, you're okay. If you can fill the frame with the subject at 300 millimeters, you can make it work. But it's a little bit soft lens, and because it's so slow at f6.7, it's hard to get shots of small birds. You have to be at a pretty fast shutter speed for those little birds. Even if they're just sitting in a branch, they twitch a lot, and and that little twitching, you have to be at like 1/800th of a second or faster to really freeze the bird and get a good clean shot. Because they'll twitch a little bit and then they'll fly off and you miss the shot. And if you got the shot and you're at 1/200th of a second, it doesn't matter. It's going to be blurry anyway with these slow lenses and telephotos. So that's why I'm thinking 300 f4. If I really want to get into bird photography, that would be the lens to get. Or the 40 to 150 with the 1.4 teleconverter. So then I'm at like 240 millimeter equivalent or whatever. At f5.6, because f5.6 is almost doable. It's right at the limit that you want to be at when you're doing telephoto work and you need a fast shutter speed. My hernia told me I took that's funny. And Nature says, my wife bought a Pen F and OMD 5 Mark II with the standard lens because they are very low in weight, small. Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you look around my desk, all my lenses are small, The biggest lens I have is my 75 to 300, and that's, I mean, when you think about the focal length of this, and this got the lens hood on it, right? It makes sense, but everything else, are small primes. I don't know why people fear ISO. I shoot with ISO 12,800 and sometimes 25,000 and it's okay. Oh yeah, it's perfectly fine. Shooting high ISO, like my last video, what was it, that freaking video about? I just published it. What was my video about? Somebody tell me, please. Dementia's setting in. It runs in my family, actually. But anyhow, it was a video on noise filters. So yeah, I have a picture in that video at 25,600. It's fine, But when you're shooting little tiny birds and they got the really fine little feathers and stuff, anything over base ISO and you're done. You're not going to get any detail out of it. And if you shoot it at high ISO to try to freeze the action, yeah, you'll see the bird there, but there won't be any detail in the feathers and things. And that's what's really why you do bird photography, because you want to really see everything about the bird. That's really kind of all those feathers, different colors and things. But yeah, I have no problem shooting high ISO. I do all the time. And Nature says, yes, Rob, with the 100 to 400 lens, has a smooth zoom, good sharp image. I would trade my Panasonic. Oh, okay. Oh yeah, I hear the zoom ring's a little stiff on the Panasonic. That's true. Yeah, Olympus would never do that. My son wants to shoot me with I bring all my gear. He's your caddy, huh? Cameras take photos. Yes, absolutely. True statement. Yes, 75 is very sharp at 75, but soft at over 200. Agreed. I'm doing well, Des. Thank you. Hi, Soft to be fun. Good to see. Oh yeah, noise reduction. Thank you. Thank you, John. Thank you. Hello, all late due to editing Rob's photo. Oh yeah, I have my photo you guys can edit. Any chance you could release your photo earlier? Yeah, I'll try. What I'll do is this time I'll pick another one for Sunday. I'll do that in today's live stream. That way you have several days to work on it. But really, don't spend more than a few minutes on any image that I put out. What does history have to say about discontinued formats of lenses? Do they go up or down in price or remain even? Someone here should know. Yeah, Lauren, it depends on the lens, really. If it's a really good lens, well-known, sharp, or has something unique about it, they will hold their value. If they are rare, meaning limited production, not on purpose, right? They just didn't make very many for whatever reason, and they're good. Yeah, the prices tend to go up on those. But then there's some lenses that people always try to go for, like the what's that Russian lens that's like from the 50s? It's usually an M42 screw mount, and it has amazing bokeh, like that swirly sort of look. I can't remember the name of it, but you can buy those all day long for between $30 and $50, even though it's kind of sought after. But that's because there's billion of them were made. They're not hard to find. But then on the other hand, I think it's Nikon has a 50 millimeter f1.2 that skyrockets in price, right? Because not that many were made, and it's really sought after because of the uniqueness of the 1.2 for full. Or is it 1.2 or maybe it's a point? I think it was a 1.2 lens. But in any case, so time will tell, right? Time will tell. Yeah, the Zenit lens. Thank you, Neil. That's the one. The Zenit. A lot of people like that lens and people buy it all the time, but there's a billion made, so the prices have been kind of tempered. But then some of the Leica lenses, used ones, there's some that are very pricey, some that are, reasonably priced. And then Nature says, you're absolutely right about bird photography. Always difficult balance between f-stop, shutter speed, and ISO. Only good option, go overseas where there's a lot more light than the UK. Yeah. Yeah, for MFT, it's the same thing. I think it'll just be a matter of there might be a couple lenses that will always hold their value. Probably the f1.2 Pros will definitely hold their value. But I'm trying to think if there's currently any discontinued lenses that people are looking for. I think your best like the 4/3 mount. There's a lens that's like a f2, but it's a telephoto f2 prime. I don't know what the focal length was, maybe 150 or 200 f2. That thing is expensive, even today, used, if you can find it. So it's got two things going for it. It's very rare and it's very unique, right? So the price on that one is very expensive. So, in the 4/3, micro 4/3 lens group, time will tell what's going to be rare and unique. I think the f1.2 lenses are very unique, but I don't know what their supply is. If there's a lot of them out there, it's going to maintain its price. If there's not too many, you can probably expect those to go up. But as a whole, the lenses will go down. Just look at the 4/3 lenses from the old Olympus E series as an example. A lot of the lenses you can buy for pennies on the dollar. But there's always some. There's that one, 200 f2 or something. Okay, someone's correcting me here. 150 f2. Definitely. And then the 12 to 35 f2. So I bet those two lenses, pricey, right? Very unique lenses and rare. So they got they got they got two gold stars there for that. The updated lens roadmap really strengthened my confidence in the Olympus and makes me want to buy the M1 Mark III. I wouldn't hesitate buying anything from Olympus, uh, as long as they're made by Olympus at this point. Now, after the takeover, if they maintain that quality, and time will tell, then I'll continue to buy. But right now, I would have no problem buying anything from Olympus, any of their lenses or cameras at this point. But if you're worried about long term and you can wait, just wait and find out, you know? Because honestly, you probably have a camera now that takes fine pictures, right? So what's the hurry? Just wait and see what happens. For me, I don't need to wait. I can buy a camera. Most of the cameras I buy, I can write off because I'll use it for my business, which I've done. Some of them I've not written off, like my Pen F and my EM5 Mark II. I haven't written off. Anyway, we don't need to get into all that. But as a consumer, you know, if you can wait, why not? Just wait. You have a good camera now already, probably. And if you're just getting into, like, this is your first camera, there's no need to wait. Just buy the one that works best for you now. Gonna grab an adult vet. Let's see. Any questions here? I'm bidding on a 12 to 35 f2 for my E5. Awesome. Well, what are the going prices now for that lens, the 12 to 35 f2? I'm curious. Bob says the 4/3 90 to 250 f2.8. God, there's another one. I never heard of that one. And Lauren's asking, can you see much of a difference color-wise between the Olympus and Panasonic? Is this somewhat in the contrast? And what of Sigma? Well, with my dying eyes, I can't tell much difference in color between my 25mm Panasonic and the 25mm Olympus on the same camera. On different cameras, Panasonic lens, Panasonic body, and Olympus lens and Olympus body together, if we put them into like their natural color profiles on each one, even then it's still hard to tell much difference. So it's very subtle, you know. The only time I can really tell any difference is when the sensor techs are very different. You know, like if we go from a CMOS modern sensor to an old MOS, not MOS, but CCD sensor, I can tell a difference there. But I think the lenses themselves, they do try to reproduce the colors accurately as they go through the lens. So I think that the camera sensor makes more difference because the camera sensor is the one that has those little micro lenses for the different colors, right? Red, green, and blue. And that's when the colors can be a little bit different. And that's why people love colors from a certain brand, is because even the raw image is affected by those micro lenses on front of the sensor, the RGB array or the Bayer array. And people just love that, right? So I think it's more, you know, if you get into the older vintage lenses, yeah, then you can start talking about the character of the lens. And like there's a couple Leicas that have sort of a nice warmer color to it. And then the radioactive lenses, and you know, you can get, not really my area, but Mattias Berling has a channel dedicated to vintage lenses that you guys can check out. Professional amateur. I wonder what that means. Let's see, it says RS Dumpy Photo says, I'm a professional amateur. That sounds like you pay people to take their picture. Rob, you live in Shenandoah Valley. It's beautiful. I live in the middle of suburbia here in Houston. I am clueless on what to photograph. EM102 first ILC. Wow, you know, in Houston, if you live near, oh, you live in a suburbia near Houston, I think Houston itself would be an interesting, if you like architectural photography, Houston itself would be great for street photography and architectural photography. When you get outside of Houston, yeah, it's just dusty, right? Nothing. So what I would do is I would probably go like try to find some very less traveled roads, long stretches of road, and do minimalist type photography where there might be like one little diner or gas station along the roadside, and then the rest is just this vast open field. Something like that would be, I think, kind of what I would do, the kind of photography I would enjoy. The other thing down in Texas, you know, they have a lot of interesting wildlife that is, it's far and few between, like the larger animals, because it's kind of freaking hot. But the little tiny ones, right? The lizards and some other things out there. And then you got those giant anthills. I used to live in Texas, so that's why I can speak a little bit about it. You know, you got those humongous anthills. You know, those might be kind of interesting. Get some interesting perspectives on that. Maybe do some of that perspective photography, where you make the anthill look like a mountain. So you can do all kinds of things, I think, out there. And there's a lot of there's a few historical places, like, I'm trying to remember. Well, that's where I would go, generally speaking, is more minimalist type photography, because there's not a lot of brush and like forests and things like that in Texas. I do not see. Oops, let me go back to my regular. Nobody wants to see. Where's my button? Here it is. I think we covered the roadmap all right. I found Panasonic's lens have a lot of contrast in general. I think the Leica versions wouldn't surprise me if that were the case. You know, Leica's kind of known for nice punchy contrast, or micro contrast, so they call it. Yeah, the Leica branded ones, I would not be surprised. But you know, let me just speak to the 12 to 32 pancake lens that I have. I will tell you that this lens is definitely contrastier and sharper than the Olympus version, no question. This I can say for a fact. I'm not guessing. And this doesn't have the Leica brand. This has just Lumix on it. And this is like your favorite camera ever, right, Lauren? You should get this lens if you don't have this for your Pen PL8, because Lauren shoots with a Pen PL8, and he puts links to his photo portfolio. He's very kind to share it with everyone in the comment sections all the time. So definitely check out his portfolio. He uses this camera a lot. I don't know what lens you use though when you shoot those, but I do see you shoot with the PL8 a lot. You have a degree in digital photography. Okay. Any guess as to why the Olympus 40 to 150 is so inexpensive? At $99 is tempting, but I already have the 40 to 150 cheaper lens when I bought. Yeah, you don't need the Olympus version if you already have the 45 from Panasonic. I don't. You know, the only reason it can be so cheap is they made a billion of them, right? My guess is it was intended to be sold together as a kit, and then they changed their mind and said, no, let's just sell the 14 to 42. So they cranked out a billion 40 to 150s with the intent to package it together as a kit, and then they changed their mind, and now we only get the one kit lens with the camera. That's one thought, but yeah, it's probably just they made too many. That's why it's so cheap. You shoot for me, yes. Do you plan to try the beta version of the OMD web? I tried to do it just before the stream started, and it was too late, and I didn't want to start the stream half an hour late trying to get that thing to work. But I downloaded, installed it, and then I couldn't find it in the program list or app list for Windows. So I said, oh, I just got to start the stream. So that's why I was a few minutes late today. I might try and do it for the other stream today, but we'll see. Yeah, it needs Windows. I'm a Windows guy. I have nothing against. I have a big problem with Apple personally, so I'll never buy their products. Doesn't mean they make bad products, right? It's more of a just me. Okay, I have a problem with them. It's just one of those businesses I will never do business with. Regardless, you know, they could come out with any product they want. No matter how fabulous it is, I'm not buying it. Flat and dusty, yes, very dusty. When I lived out there, man, it was like constantly cleaning dust. Roy Jenkins Packer says, I was looking at buying the 7-14 f2.8, but now with the new lens map, it's got an 8-25 f4. Should I wait or buy? I would wait for the 8-25 because you don't need f2.8 on a wide angle lens, because usually those are landscape things. You'll be on a tripod, and even if you have to shoot at a slower shutter speed, wide angle lens kind of mitigates any motion blur for the fact of the focal length. And the 8-25 is going to be smaller and lighter at f4, and with any luck, it'll let us put filters on the front, like regular screw-in filters. That's not as critical to me, but and the extra focal length going from 8-25, that will keep you from having to bring other lenses with you if you're so inclined, right? The 7-14 is just wide from 7-14, and yeah, you know, you go out with one lens, you can go out with that, but an 8-25 will definitely be a lot more versatile. That's more of a carry-around lens, more so than a 7-14 in my opinion. It's more of a walk-around lens with that focal length. So my advice is wait for the 8-25. I mean, I do architectural photography and can write the lens off for my real estate stuff, but I haven't bought it yet. I'd rather have the 9-18 than the 7-14 personally, but since I heard about the 8-25, I'm gonna wait for that even. Because even in personal stuff, you know, landscape, wide angle, street, f4 is fast enough. It's not a walking friendly city. Really, Houston's not? Well, you know, Houston's probably where they're going to have the zombie outbreak anyway. Let me think. I'm surprised Houston's not pedestrian friendly. Most major cities, they have sidewalks and things. You can go around and take pictures. After owning the EM1 Mark III for a couple of months, I am now all on Olympus no matter what happens. I can't wait to get my hands on the 100 Macro Pro. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the 100 Macro, if I was in the macro, I would definitely get that over the other two. Any way to reset Ollie lenses? I have an Ollie 12-40 Pro, which at times goes black when used with the EM1 Mark II, but never on my EM1 Mark I. Maybe check the contacts on your EM1 Mark II. I can't really give any advice how to clean it. Clean the contacts. But you know, this row of pins down here, maybe one of those is dirty. That's all I can think of. And then check the contacts on your on your lens itself. I mean, like, you know, if you use, don't use any cleaners, but like a rubbing alcohol and a Q-tip to clean the contacts. Some people use like an eraser, I've heard. I wouldn't use an eraser personally, but I've heard people use like an eraser on the end of a pencil to clean it. But I've cleaned lenses myself with a Q-tip and rubbing alcohol for the contacts. And not that I was having a problem before, but I noticed they were a little dirty, so I cleaned them. Because that dirt gets onto, you know, that passes around like a virus, right? When you start getting dirt in a camera. But there's no way to reset the Pro lens that I'm aware of. Lots of huge termite mounds, yes. Hi Rob, EM1X firmware. I don't know anything about that. Somebody mentioned there's some new firmware out, but yeah, sorry, I didn't because I don't have an EM1X, so I if I did hear it, it's like in one ear and out the other because they said EM1X. So I don't know. I'm trying to think. Thought I heard something. I'm sorry. I better not say anything because I really don't know. Which lens is that? Oh, ProRace. We were talking about the 12 to 40 ProRace. Other than that, I don't know. I should have said 100mm lens with an f/6 aperture. Ah. Steve Huff did a review on the Panasonic 42.5 f1.2 and the contrast is amazing. Oh, okay. Yeah, like I said, see, it's got that Leica brand on it. And everybody says that the contrast, micro contrast on Leica branded lenses are amazing. Oh, Lauren says he does have the 12 to 32 that we were talking about on his Pen PL8. So the Woody car. Oh, you took that with this lens. Yeah, that was amazing. I was really liking the tones on the black and white version. That's what I mean. This lens is, this 12 to 30, I broke mine. It's a little stiff in the ring now because I dropped it, but it's starting to work a little bit looser. But it's not smooth anymore like it was. It's kind of like the 100 to 400 people complain about on the other Panasonic lens. Maybe it was always like that and I don't remember, but I got the 14 to 150 lens on eBay for $280, near new upon your recommendation, but I have 4 lenses now. 12 to 40 or 14 to 42, 40 to 150, 25 f1.8 and 14 to 150, but even a 14 150 is not good for indoors. Yeah, for indoors I use my 17 1.8 mostly. The 25 is a little bit tight for indoors. Unless you're in big spaces like a church or cathedral or but for most stuff like 17 is best. 12 is a little bit too wide. Yeah, Wolftick has the 12 to 32. It's an amazing lens. I would buy another one actually. If that one ever breaks, I would buy another one instantly. If my 75mm f1.8 ever broke, I would just say fine, you know, because it's not a lens I use or care about. But if my 12 to 32 kit lens from Panasonic breaks, that's an overnight replacement, no question. Just like my 17 f1.8, there's certain lenses that they need to be replaced instantly the moment they get lost or broken. The best for indoors is the 25 f1.8, but I do like the 14 to 150. Yeah, I like the 14 to 150. I'm really digging that lens. It's a really great carry around lens. And being weather sealed, it's really good lens when you don't know what you're going to be running into if you go out. You know, normally you should, I mean, if you should plan your photo outings, say I'm going to go out with this lens, nothing else, and really get to know this lens inside and out, what kind of pictures I take, and do that for a week, a month, whatever, you know. But that's if, you know, I got mixed feelings about that because you hear that a lot, right? Take only one lens out when you go out for a photo walk and just learn that lens inside and out. Learn how to compose with it, meaning learn, you know, it forces you into that field of view, so you need to start getting closer or further away, whatever the focal length is. You need to move with your feet and compose things in a way that for that focal length. And then you got the carry around lenses where, like the 14 to 150, that no matter what you run into, you're set, right? You're ready to go. And that convenience factor is hard to avoid, or you know, that convenience factor is very tempting to take out, but it's kind of contrary to really getting good at photography and composition. So I'd say anyhow, to each his own on that. It's just very hard for me to go out with one lens. I use both Windows and Mac. Okay. I tried the lens on the GX85 and it was slow, but the camera is bad. Didn't like the GX8 or G9. Oh, the GX or the G9 are much better cameras. I'm sure that's true. The only thing with my GX85, I'm not 100% sure about the model number, but I'll just show it to you. Maybe it's written on the camera. Oh. This is my... God dang it. This is my Sony piece of crap. NEX6. This was my first digital interchangeable lens camera. Here it is. What is this? Where's the little frickin' body cap? Holy crap. This needs a lens on it anyway. What is this thing? GX85. This camera in low light does focus slower, or has trouble focusing more so than any other Olympus camera that I own. That's all I can say about that. Gotta go. Okay, Sumit, thanks for coming in. And Nature says I have a G9. Yeah, that's... I almost got a G9 about a month ago. It was on sale for like 750 bucks, a refurb. But I held back because I'm saving up for a new computer. I got so many things I need. I need a new air conditioner because my window unit is it's lowering the humidity, but it's not getting the room cold. No, I lived in El Paso, but I did travel to Houston quite a bit. Well, not quite a bit. I went there 2 or 3 times for business, but I lived in El Paso. Here on the Apple stands, apps, greedy, blood sucking. Yeah, I don't know about all that. That's not why I have a problem with Apple. It's in one of my old streams. I think I went on a rant about, or I explained why I didn't buy Apple. Kind of a long story. I don't want to talk about it again, but Kostov, hope you get the 8 to 25. Hey Kostov, you know, I remember you were in the stream with Joe Edelman, he does a great live stream on Wednesdays that you guys should definitely check out. He always starts out his streams. He's always got great information, like for the first 10 or 15 minutes, and then he starts answering questions. And he's a very experienced photographer. But I remember you asked him about the Godox TT350, and if it's a good choice, and his answer was a little vague. Like I don't think he really answered your question too well. He just kind of responded with, uh, buy what you think is best kind of thing. But I think you know where I stand. As a beginning photographer, I think that Godox TT350 is the best flash to get as a beginner. And if you need to buy another flash, a bigger flash, you're in a system that you can upgrade and use the same wireless trigger, or use the built-in wireless trigger in each flash to control the others. So the Godox TT350 is a great jumping off point and will do 90% of what you need. If you're thinking about doing portraits outdoors all the time, don't start with a TT350. Get one of the larger flashes. But the Godox TT350 otherwise, and you've probably seen my Godox TT350 videos. I have a couple of them where I did outdoor portraits, and I showed you where it was just a little bit weak. It just barely made it outdoors in bright sunlight. If the circumstances were a little different, it might have totally failed. Whereas a larger flash, and a flash that uses 4 batteries, because the Godox TT350 only uses 2, right? So if you get one that uses 4 batteries or a lithium-ion pack, it's going to be at least twice as powerful. Then you'll be in the clear for most outdoor one light photography. I got my 12 to 50 on my G85. Oh, okay, Renee. Yeah, the 12 to 50 is definitely underrated, and going back to an earlier conversation, I don't think that's a lens that's going to hold its value after, because they've already stopped making it and the price has only come down. So it sounds like they made a lot of them, and it wasn't particularly good, it wasn't, excuse me, not particularly unique, right? Because there are a lot of lenses in the 12 to, in that focal range at that f-stop. So there's nothing unique about it optically. But it's definitely a good lens. The thing that's unique about it, you do have a semi close-up type photography ability. I think the close focusing distance is really good, and it has the power zoom built in. So it has some unique qualities, but I don't think they're it's more niche, right? People would have to be looking for that to want it. My data says I have a color checker. How would you go in setting a color profile for it in Workspace or other software? Everything else I see, yeah, there's only Lightroom. There's no way to do it. You don't have to do it for, well, let me rephrase that. You can't do any kind of color calibration in Workspace. You have to have the software plug-in to make it work. I'm trying to think. I'll see if I can think of a workaround, but I can't. Nothing comes to mind right now. Any kind of workaround to actually, because what iDatus is really asking is, use these color checker things. I usually have mine right here. It's on my desk behind me, but you use these color checker things. You can calibrate your camera to the software so that reds are red, blues are blue, greens are green. You get 100% color accuracy when you're working with. You're not getting any kind of bias in terms of color signs from the camera. It's all equaled out. So whether you shoot Canon, Nikon, Olympus, you can shoot all those cameras together for the same photo shoot, color calibrate them in the software in Lightroom, and get the same image in color. In theory, that's the theory, right? But I don't know how to do that in Workspace. I can't think of any workaround. Oh, hey Arthur, how are you? What time did I start today? At 3? Oh, I need to end this soon. And you know, there was a super chat here. Quail, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I'm sorry, I totally missed that. But thank you very much. All right, let me go back down. I lost my place here. Lauren's killing me. The Lumix lenses are not Rob drop rated. The 12 to 32 is not recommended for Rob. Yeah, definitely I can tell. I didn't drop it far, and it's so light. Why would it break? I don't understand. If it had some mass to it, like if I dropped my 12 to 40 Pro, thank God I've only dropped it once. But that lens, it didn't break. I got a little chip on the front of it now. I'm using it now. But there's a little chip on the front of it. But anyway, on the front element. But it doesn't affect image quality. See, I still look the same. But that lens is so light. When it hits when you drop it, it shouldn't have any mass to it to cause any damage. Anyway, I just gotta stop dropping my stuff. And no, it's Roman is asking, is it possible to change the grid color on the pen F? No, it is not. David says he's going to try to do fireworks in DC on the 4th. Okay. I think there was an email from you about that, right? The group? I'm trying to remember because I just got an email from you this morning again. But I was so busy this morning working on a client thing. Not photography related, but Sean says, who taught you photography? If you're asking me, nobody. Is self-taught. YouTube taught me. So early on, I watched Tony Northrup and Frono's Photo, and probably some others. Those are the two that come to mind. And then in terms of photography, those are my core things. I even bought Tony's $10 Amazon book, which I shouldn't have done because I never read things. Doesn't matter if the book's any good or not. I just don't read. I'm very visual, right? So I watch a lot of YouTube to learn stuff. And then I practice. The way I learn the little things, like the fine print series I'm starting, is because I'll start trying to do something in photography and then I'll say, wow, Olympus has this feature, or this feature is a little confusing, you know, let me try and make a video to explain that. But the core photography, yeah, I watched a lot of freaking YouTube early on, Fro and Tony. Oh, EM1X gets new AI for birds in flight. I want astrofocusing, yes. I'm going to try to get some fire. Oh, sorry. It looks like bird detecting. Okay, good. robtrek, is that possible to change the grid? Oh, I'm sorry. Just backing up here. Wow, that's from 15 minutes ago. How about a 27-inch iMac? The cost same as a new was ridiculous, yes. G9 is 3 times better than the GX85, no doubt. Yeah, RS Dunn's photography says he's using airplane AI for birds in flight on his EM1X. So that seems like a small tweak then, right? To add birds to an already a focusing algorithm that's pretty close, like for airplanes. Wonder what the tweak was. Is anywhere in America pedestrian friendly? Even the parking lots are so big, you need the hail attack. Yeah, God, tell me about it. You need to hail a taxi to get to the mall and back. It's true, man. You know, my whole neighborhood is not pedestrian friendly. There's hardly any sidewalks. People are always walking in the street. Um, Now, when I go into Alexandria, it's very pedestrian friendly. I do a lot of photo walks there. Rob, the Lumix lenses are not... Oh, sorry. I'm going way back now. Matty walked the streets of Helsinki all night and his camera was not stolen. Most US cities, I would not recommend late night walks. All right, Lauren, I got an issue with this. You are the one that gave me a hard time about taping up my cameras black to make them mundane, to not wear my hats, etc. Right? Because I used to put black tape over this, and you know, sometimes I had a little thing down in here too, and then I would wear a hat because I was trying to look as mundane as possible, right? I didn't want to be a target. And then now you make a statement like this. What's up with that? Seems contradictory to me. Because right now, the way things are now in the US, I feel like putting tape back on my cameras and lenses and stuff and just go back to that sort of very mundane, unassuming look to my photography. It's not because I'm trying to be discreet to like the average person, right? But I'm trying to be discreet against all the freaking, you know, people maybe want to steal your crap. That does still worry me to some extent. Absolutely correct. Oh, let's see. GX85 had a problem focusing with the best lens on a bright day light. Much worse than EPL5 or Pen F or G. Really? I didn't think it was so bad otherwise. But I did notice at night it was definitely lackluster. Well, I don't need a computer. Whatever you spend on camera money, I spend on PC stuff. Here's my Sony piece of crap. I shouldn't say that. This Sony, I took a lot of pictures, but I can tell you the color science, yeah, the color science is a little rough. I didn't appreciate it back then. I thought it took great pictures. But yeah, after comparing to what I can get, because I upgraded from this, I went to Nikon, and the difference between the two is huge in terms of color. I really switched to Nikon for the viewfinder, live viewfinder, not the electronic viewfinder experience. Because I turned out I didn't like using the electronic viewfinder. I enjoyed using the optical viewfinder in the Nikons, and that's mainly why I switched. And then I discovered the colors and everything else was a lot nicer too. Now I'm back to, I can only do electronic viewfinder. I gotta have this now, this or the live view. It's funny how that worked out. Like I started with Sony, but it just felt like a piece of technology to me. It just didn't feel like a camera, so it didn't inspire me to go out. Other than how low light ISO handle Lumix and GX85 take great pics, yes. Definitely, the GX85 is definitely a solid camera. Great menu system, amazing Panasonic menu system. Takes great pictures. You know, I got a photo walk where I compare, I think the GX85 against my EM10. It was fine. It's just in low light, the focusing was a little weak. That's all. And a lot of people don't like the viewfinder, the EVF in it, because it has like this tearing to it. So if you're not looking straight onto it, it might get a little bit smudgy, right? Some people really struggled with it. I don't have a problem with it. I can, you know, my eyesight's so bad anyway that maybe I'm not seeing the tearing and the smudging. But some people do have a serious problem with it and return the camera, but I haven't had any problem with it personally. And it's a fabulous little camera. If you didn't see it before, is it possible to change? Oh, I did answer that. Sorry. Yeah, you cannot change the grid lines on the Pen F color. I listened to you and bought the Godox TT350 off eBay for 58 bucks. Okay, awesome. Awesome, Kostov. How about the Yongnuo flashes? There is one that I did a review on that I can recommend. What I don't like about Yongnuo is you have to be really careful with if you're thinking about expanding, you have to be really careful with the radio flash triggers. If you buy a flash trigger for one particular Yongnuo system, it may not be compatible with other flash systems within the Yongnuo brand. So just be very conscious of that before you buy into it. Other than that, it's fine. The one that I reviewed was, I don't know if it was radio controlled or not, but it had the best optical trigger on it of any of the generics. Or third party, I should call them. They're not generic. They're third party lenses like Yongnuo, Godox, Neewer, whatever else is out there. It has the best optical trigger, as good as my Nikon SB, what is it? I have an SB something. SB 900, but the one just before that. Definitely very, very solid optical trigger. As good as any premium brand lens. But if you're thinking about expanding, just be careful of the radio triggers. And I don't know if they make a compact flash like the Godox TT350. So that would be another reason to go with Godox, or to start with Godox, and then you're fine. The Lumix 12 to 32 is basically cheap plastic glued together lens, but good optics, yes. Fragile to use, yes. And in Germany, you have sidewalk, bike road, and car road. Okay. Yeah, not so much here. It's kind of random. You know, you can go from one town to the next, and one will be very pedestrian friendly. The other one will be, you know, proceed at your own risk, really. Lauren, okay, Lauren's answering my thing. I can put black tape on there again. Or add Jip on the tape to confuse everything. Maybe I should make my own label and cover the Olympus brand and put in robtrek or something, right? That would be kind of neat. I have Olympus 2.8 macro, 1:1 mag. Yep. No problem with focusing on my GX85, but then again, some cameras can be made incorrectly and some people buying them. Yeah, that's far and few between though. I would not hesitate to recommend the GX85 to anybody. It's an awesome camera. Like I said, it's just a hair less focusing ability at night, as far as I can tell. During the day, you know, it's as good as anything else I've used. I mean, I haven't done a side-by-side, but at this point, the cameras are entry-level cameras. And doing a side-by-side, you know, might be good for like, if you're going to cover everything, pros and cons of everything. But if you're talking about one thing, you know, like the Pen PL8 next to the GX85, those are fairly competitive cameras. you know, the PL8 is going to focus better, but the GX85, you know, I think is a little better made. But then you go back to the PL8, it has the flip down screen, right, for vlogging and selfies, and has the option for a mic jack. But then you go back to the GX85 and it has 4K recording and better video overall, right? But then you go back to the PL8. So, you know, I can go on all day long about the difference between these two cameras, even though they're essentially the same thing, same size, same market. You know, and if I say the GX85, yeah, the focusing is just a hair not quite as good at night as the PL8. That doesn't mean buy a PL8. You know, you need to buy what's right for you, or what features you're looking for. You know, I think if you're into vlogging, get the PL8 because it has the mic jack option and the flip down screen. If you're into video, get the GX85. I mean, even though video and vlogging are the same thing, they're not. Vlogging is very different than doing video recording. But I don't know why I'm talking about that camera. I have a Nikon DF. Oh man, I'm so envious. The photos don't pop with the old D lenses? Really? On your Nikon DF? You know, I don't know. Try putting on some AI lenses on it, like the 200mm f4. I found has been, my God, that lens is magic. Another lens that's really good is the Zeiss Distagon 35mm f2. Magic. The 35 f2D lens from Nikon. You stop it down to f2.8 or f4. Awesome, awesome lens. The Nikon 50mm f1.8, not bad. I think that one's okay. I don't need, all I can tell, and the 135 f3.5, really amazing lens. I mean, those, so the D, I don't have too many D lenses. I have the 35 and I have the 105. I have the 50. Those are okay, not great, but the other lens, the AI lenses I mentioned, man, I'm loving those. My two best cameras I have and go everywhere with me, the G9 and the EM1 Mark II. Yeah, the G9 is definitely got a lot going for it. I wish Olympus, and this is something I should probably talk about in another video, but Olympus really should have put a better EVF in the M1 Mark III. And I really like the top plate LCD on the G9, but the camera overall is a little bit big. So, you know, of course, so they have room for a top plate LCD. I kind of miss that from my Nikon using it. Wow, your speed of eye focusing is very slow, huh, Nature? Wow. Yeah, my days are good and bad. Some nights I'm driving. Mostly is my problem is allergy related. My eyes are always watery. So any kind of speculars, I get that, you know, starburst effect on everything. Like at nighttime I have a real hard time because of all the speculars. In the daytime, you know, focusing is, yeah, kind of spotty. One good point about for my M40 is both Ollie and Pana use the same system. Robtrek, what happened to the new monitor? Well, you know, I calibrated the one I have and it's 100% RGB, so I'm fine. I want to buy a new laptop to replace the one I have, and they don't quite have what I want quite yet. I mean, I could get one now that's about twice as fast. Once I get the replace my computer, then I'll start thinking about the monitor. But right now, the having a new laptop is more important. I just don't have a bottomless pit of money, unfortunately. You know, I have to kind of pick and choose my battles here. Like if I have to go buy a new AC unit, that's gonna set me back a little bit, etc. You find the irony in the fact that you didn't like the way an electronics manufacturer made a camera feel like a piece of electronics rather than a camera. Not sure if ironic's the right word. You find the irony in the fact. There's a word opposite of irony, I think, that we need to use. It makes complete sense, right? Electronics manufacturer makes a camera that feels like a piece of technology. That's not irony. That's what's the word for that? I see your point, but I think I don't want to turn into a grammar Nazi though. I mean, I don't care. I get your point. Answer: the difference between the two cameras, Rob, is to buy both. Yes. That is always my advice. If you can, buy both. Remove all doubt. I think I said that in my last video about noise, about doing long exposure photography, because people complain, you know, you do a 15-minute exposure and then you do another 15-minute black frame, so you're waiting 30 minutes to do one picture. I said, you know, the solution is to buy two cameras. That way, while one's taking a picture, you can use the other one to take other pictures. All right, I need to wrap it up here and start my next stream here for the live photo editing. So I had to delete the stream and reopen it, so you have to go back to my home page or channel page to find the link for the new live photo editing stream. And I'm sorry if I didn't get to your questions. I'm going to skim real quick. Yeah, Barry, good night. I think, yeah, I have to end it here. Get ready for my next stream. So thanks again, everybody, for joining. I had a great time today, and hopefully I was able to answer some questions and talk about the new lens lineup. I think there's some good choices there, but it's always fun to kind of just chit chat about those things, right? I really appreciate everybody's feedback. So you guys have a good weekend. I'll be back on Sunday for another photo chat, and thanks again. Oh, Sumi's asking 12mm f2. It's awesome. Should I hold out for the 12 to 25? 12, okay, real quick, the 12mm f2 is a different lens. It's because it's an f2, it's very fast. So if you need low light capability, don't wait for the 8 to 25. Definitely get the 12mm f2. If you don't need the f2 low light, wait for the 8 to 25 lens. Because f4 is what? It's 2 stops slower. That's significant. But if you don't shoot at night a lot, then it'll be fine. So okay, I'm gonna go. Thanks again, everyone.